But they want to shut me up. People feel free to go. Give up minister, turn up the reality. People suffering. Put down there. People protesting. They want to shut me up. I will not free to talk in Dominica. And Grenada, it doesn't trouble. The Grenada people. Yeah, me. Take care of you, set me up. We are living in communist country. No facts.
All right, we are now live as we speak. We are live on our social media platform page, that is the Civic Vibes page. Let me say at this time, a pleasant good afternoon, a pleasant greetings, and welcome to all of you already locked in the listening and viewing audience this afternoon for another very interesting and informative program from the Civic Vibes platform. All those of you who are already here, it's our pleasure to welcome you here. This afternoon, we're gonna dissect, as it were, a summary report from the Caribbean Court of Justice, that is the CCJ, that was handed down to us here in Dominica on the 5th of July, 2022, on the strength of some petitions that were filed after the 2019 general elections. So this afternoon, we have our co-host here, that is Ms. Paula Celestin. We also have in our audience this afternoon, two erudite gentlemen from Dominica, but they're out of state as we speak, in the name of Brother Alvin Thomas, who is no stranger to Civic Vibes at this time. He has been here on a number of occasions, and so we want to welcome him here nonetheless in a very special way, that is Mr. Alvin Thomas. Also this afternoon, making his debut, as it were, is Brother David Joseph. No stranger to this gentleman. He is from Dominica, but he has lived out of Dominica for some time, you know, visited now and then. And so, like we do every one of our debutants, as it were, I'll be going through a brief bio of this brother in just a while, just before I ask him to introduce himself to you guys out there. But without further ado, let me say a special good afternoon to the co-host of this program, that is Miss Paula Celestin, to give you guys her opening greetings. Paula, good afternoon and welcome. Yes, Paula, good afternoon and welcome.
Yes, Lofty.
Yeah, if you can just bring down that camera a little. Yeah. Yes, voila.
I was just seeing your mouth moving, but no audio, Lofty. Okay.
So you're still not hearing me?
I'm hearing you now. I'm hearing you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's good.
Okay.
So good afternoon. Your opening remarks, Paula, as we begin this afternoon's program.
Yes, Lofty. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all our viewers and our listeners by whatever media that you are listening to us this afternoon. It's a blessed Sunday afternoon. On my side where I am, Lofty, it's kind of a bit sunny now. Earlier it was kind of raining, but now everything is okay. I want to say, as usual, we always having a wonderful program, and this afternoon it will be of no difference. So to the number of persons who are tuning by whatever media, like I have said, welcome, and hoping to have a wonderful discussion here this afternoon.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Paula, for your opening remarks and opening greetings to all our people we have engaged thus far. Thank you very much, Paula. It's always nice having you and seeing you as well. Let me move across now to Mr. Alvin Thomas, who, as I said, this brother have been there with on Civic Vibes before, so he's no stranger. So Mr. Thomas, good afternoon to you, sir.
Yes, good afternoon, Lofty. Good afternoon to you, Paula, and also my good friend David Joseph here in New York. And to your many listeners that logged in on Facebook and the various other social media. A pleasant good afternoon to you folks in Dominica. I'm sure everyone is having a wonderful Sunday. I was just saying to Lofty a few minutes ago, I wish I was in DA now to take a ride down to the Mero Beach or go to one of these hot springs and get a nice little glacial bath. So hopefully I'll be able to do that shortly. But yes, a pleasant good afternoon. Again, the topic that we're discussing here this afternoon is a very, very important topic. And that as it has to do with electoral reform. And some people may feel, well, it's flogging a dead horse, or why we keep discussing that matter. But in light of the recent ruling, if I may put it that way, from the CCJ, it gives even more reason why this has to be a very pertinent matter and the only matter and one of the top priorities that we should be addressing ourselves to. And when I say ourselves, I always refer to Dominicans at home and abroad. So yes, as we get more into the details of the report, I'll be happy to share my own understanding of it and help to explain and how should I say it? Not necessarily from a legal standpoint, I'm not an attorney, but from my layman understanding in terms of what the CCJ report is saying to us Dominicans. So I'll be happy to share that. So that's my opening remark as of now. Thanks, Lofty.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Brother Thomas. So yes, I will be asking you that all important question when we start in terms of getting the ball rolling. What is that report, that summary report, Brother Thomas is saying to us in Dominica? So please bear that in mind. Let me, before I read a brief bio from Brother Joseph, let me move across and say a hi and hello to some of our folks already on the live with us. Persons like Veronica Pascal, Marigold Popo, Chris Bugunu, Joe Benjamin, Royston Francis, Justina James. You have Madonna John Baptist, someone that goes by the name of Unbreakable Corin Quadrington Daily, Manuelin Pierre. Good afternoon to you folks. Stephanie John Baptist, Antoine George. Good afternoon to you, brother. Marshall Lawrence, Dorian, Dorival, Gertrude, Abraham Dejean, Everlasting Peter, Simeon George, Carol Ann Ford, Nelly Felix, Nicholas, good afternoon to you all. Edward Felix, Clyde Gregoire, Norma Ito, Ziska, Sarah, Clyde Gregoire, and the list goes on and on and on. If I continue mentioning this person's name, then we will not start the program this afternoon. So let me just leave that there as it is and say a special good afternoon to all of you. We appreciate you listening and you watching on as to what is going to be talked about here this afternoon in terms of our electoral reform matters. And especially we're going to zero in on that summary report that was handed down this week, Tuesday of this week, by the CCJ. So just before I move across to Brother Joseph so that he can say his hi and hello to you guys out there in terms of his opening remarks, a brief bio of Brother Joseph reads, my name is David C. Joseph. I am the third of 6 sons delivered by my mother, Miss Romancia Isaac. I resided on Lower Federation Drive in Goodwill. My first school I attended was the St. Alphonsus Preschool and then the Goodwill Junior High School, as it was referred to back then. In 1979, soon after Hurricane David, I migrated to the US, New York to be precise. Once in New York, I attended the Richmond Hill High School and did 2 years at Queensborough Community College, where I studied electrical technology. I then went into the field of work in the retail field, where I stayed for some time, managing the retail stores. I eventually decided to go to the construction field. That is and was my first love. And now I am the owner of my own business as a licensed New York City home improvement contractor. Brother David Joseph, without further ado, let me welcome you to the platform of Civic Vibes. And on behalf of all those viewing and listening, welcome. Good afternoon to you.
Brother Lofty, good afternoon to you, sir. Good afternoon to Brother Alvin Thomas and Miss Celestine. I am honored to be part of your panel this evening, and I am humbled that you even suggested or requested my presence here this afternoon. I will try my best to elaborate on certain points as the discussion begins, and we will see how it goes. You already did a rather marvelous job introducing me. So most people who know me in Dominica, if my friends that are still there, they know me as Cecil Joseph. So that is why I always emphasize on David C. Joseph, because I went to school as Cecil Joseph. So everybody know me as Cecil Joseph. But then we have another Cecil Joseph down here whom you know how it is. So I refer to myself as David C. Joseph. So that's where David C. Joseph come from. But like you said, I left in 1979. I came to the US, but Dominica never left me. I have been back. I come home practically every year because I have my mom there and my brother and some other families. My mom is not doing too well right now. She's at the hospital, but we are there holding on and doing the best we can. But Dominica is a place that I love. I cannot seem to shed Dominica from me. I wake up every morning, Dominica on my mind. I go to sleep every night, Dominica is on my mind. And growing up back then, it was totally different. And what I see now is disheartening. And I try my best to render my opinion on certain aspects as to what is going on in Dominica, because I would like to see what is best for my country. A lot of people don't like the fact that, especially myself and Brother Alvin, we are out in the so-called diaspora, and they believe that we should remain there and keep quiet. But unfortunately, I can't do that because Dominica is somewhere that I want to return to in the next maybe year or two to reside. And when I come back, I want to be in a comfortable place where I can live happily and comfortable. And that is why I try my best to fight for my country in whatever way possibly that I can, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, because as I was explaining to Brother Thomas, I was in Dominica for 2 months. I showed up at the courts on both days that Thompson was there. I showed up on 2 of the matches. So I don't only talk the talk, I walk the walk. So for anybody to think that, well, I should keep my mouth shut, well, there's something else coming because I will never keep my mouth shut. I'm not the type to go out there making videos, but I do render my opinion on Facebook on my page. Sometimes I get insulted, sometimes I get threatened, but that's part of it. I'm not relenting. I'm not going to back down because that's who I am. I'm fighting for my country. I'm fighting for my people. I want to see what's best for them because what's best for Dominica is what is best for the people of Dominica. And that's all I'm asking for.
All right. Thank you very much, Brother David. At least I know what the C stands for now, for sure. Let me thank you for your opening remarks, as it were. For those of you out there who normally listens to Q95, that voice is a very unique voice. It's a very distinct voice. You cannot miss it. This brother, always when he have the time, he make time to call in or send a voice into his contribution in terms of, how he feels about his country, Dominica. And as I said, I can testify to the fact that he's not only a talker, but he normally puts his money where his mouth is. And so that is no quote unquote Johnny come lately that you're seeing and you're hearing from this afternoon. So again, Brother Joseph, I just want to thank you for your patriotic duty that you did and continues to do for your country, Dominica.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let us get into it because we know time is not on our side in the span of 2 hours. Brother Thomas, I want to have you get a shot at that new cherry, that new ball, as it were, as it's in the cricketing terms. You made a statement when you were doing your opening remarks as to the report that we're about to dissect, what does it really mean to Dominicans? Because I know a lot of Dominicans heard of that report, and some are still at bay as to the significance, the implications, the meaning of that report. We had some points highlighted in that report. So I just want to start there, Brother Thomas, with you as we get the conversation going this afternoon.
Thank you, Lofty. Thank you, Lofty. Let me begin by prefacing what some of my comments, and of course, as I referenced the CCJ's report, and I would capture it in that sense: a threat to our democracy. That's how I would capture it: a threat to our democracy. And what I mean by that, Lofty and listeners, if we cannot exercise our right to vote in a free and fair election without the taints of irregularities, then our democracy is threatened. And none of the other things matter as it relates to gas prices, economic, whatever it is, social upheaval. None of these matter. This is and should be the #1 issue for discussion at this stage. So again, I want to underscore that: a threat to our democracy. And let me, at this stage, just quickly reference 2 areas in the CCJ's report. The CCJ's report is made up of 111 sections, or paragraphs, if you want to call it that. 111, where they outlined and they made certain comments as it relates to the election petition that was filed. At section 74, under the caption that reads "Electoral List in Free and Fair Election," that is the heading of that caption: Electoral List in Free and Fair Elections. And there is a subheading that reads "Fundamental Underpinning Premises." Fundamental underpinning premises. And section 74 of the CCJ's report, as the CCJ's report, it reads, let me quote, "Core constitutive preambular value in the Dominican Constitution include fundamental human rights, freedom of persons and institutions, in bracket, the inalienable equality and dignity of persons, participatory and representative democracy, and the creation and maintenance of lawfully constituted authority." It is these values, among others, that the Constitution expressly avows that the people of Dominica, in quote now, desire that their Constitution should make provision for. These are the words of the CCJ. That's the CCJ making those comments in the report at section 74. It goes on to say, and that's a very interesting area. Section 75 of the CCJ report. Furthermore, the text of the Constitution itself, referring to Dominica Constitution, provides for regular and periodic parliamentary elections, as well as for the entitlement of duly qualified persons, 1, to be registered to vote, 2, to vote in any such election, and 3, to challenge them. As the CCJ writing there, this is not anything from that's not Alvin's opinion or Alvin's comment or remarks or anybody else. That's a CCJ, section 75. Thus, in the context of a representative, participatory constitutional democracy and the constitutive preambular value cited, and this specific constitutional provision, the unavoidable conclusion is that the holding of regular and periodic free and fair election are part of the basic deep structure of Dominican constitutionalism, and integral to this is a constitutional entitlement to vote. I'm taking pain to refer to the section because earlier on, I think you asked, question to the effect that maybe folks are not paying much attention to the report. And I will address some of that in a little while. But let me go on, because we're getting to the crux of the matter. This particular section under that area that deals with electoral lists in free and fair election is so pertinent. Indeed, at section 76, indeed, it would be remarkable if the separation of powers and judicial independence among the basic deep structure of Dominican constitutionalism and free and fair elections were not. After all, the most obvious and defining hallmark of a liberal democracy state is free and fair election. Let me read that part again. After all, the most obvious and defining hallmark of liberal democratic states is free and fair election. It is through such election that two of the core institutional structures of the state are established, the legislature and the executive. Without any such election, the constitutionally warranted governance structure of the state would simply not exist. So fundamental to democracy, I underscore that word, democracy, is free and fair election. And finally, at section 77, moreover, without such free and fair election, the preambular value of the creation and maintenance of and respect for lawfully constituted authority would be fatally undermined. The consequences of such denial that a reflection on Caribbean history demonstrates include loss of legitimacy, public unrest, and even revolt. These are the words used by the CCJ, Lofty. You heard what they said here? The consequences of such denial that a reflection on Caribbean history demonstrates include loss of legitimacy, public unrest, and even revolt. In contemporary terms, free and fair elections are so fundamental to the democratic way of life that without it, the very legitimacy and sovereignty of the constitutional state is brought into question. Constituted as it is, the people of Dominica, in this regard, it is worth reminding ourselves, quote, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority, legitimacy of government. That's section 77. Why did I go at pains to refer to all of that? It clearly flies in the face, and as I said, when I preempted my comments, a threat to our democracy. That's why it's important. That's why we have to continue discussing this matter. That is why this matter must be the #1 matter, and nothing else matters. And time and time again, Lofty, when reports like this come out, there is this sense of, how should I put it? Fear or intimidation. Some of us feel intimidated by those reports. But let me say, the courts are there for a purpose. The courts are there to adjudicate whenever there is a wrong or an alleged wrong is committed by one person to another. That's why we have the court. Otherwise, we'll be fighting each other in the streets. You hit me, I hit you back. Or you take that of me, or I take a certain course of action. But that is what the courts are designed to do. And therefore, whenever the court presents a report, in that case, the CCJ, we must not see it as intimidating or something that is above us. And here again, I say to the legal minds in Dominica, they have an obligation to explain to the people, to educate the citizens as to what is contained in this report. It would seem to me that a group of attorneys or the attorneys in Dominica should take it upon themselves as part of their callings, as part of their duty, to explain to the citizens what these reports means, and when the CCJ makes certain rulings on a matter as important as electoral reform, what exactly is contained in the report. It shouldn't be one of those reports that is just shelved away and whatever. We've had previous reports on electoral reform. We've had the CARICOM, the OAS Special Mission, and the Commonwealth issued report on electoral reform. We had a very extensive report, I recall, back in November of 2019 on election by the Electoral Reform Effort Group. I think it was written by Tony LeBlanc. And the caption was "A regrettable and shameful situation. General election without electoral reform." So we've had numerous persons, but now what we have is at the apex body. There's nowhere else we can go. Because as you are aware, and our listeners are aware, the matter, I wouldn't even say the matter was determined at the High Court, because it came across, as the legal minds will explain and tell you, not as a final decision, but as an interlocutory decision, meaning that there was no final. Then they attempt to appeal to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal say, hey, we can't hear you because there was no final decision from the High Court. So we have nothing to go on, and therefore they deny a request. And then the matter was taken to the CCJ. And the CCJ, as we will discuss a bit later as we get into more the details of that, the CCJ went at depth and looked at it. And one of the conclusions they arrived at is that the petitioners had what was termed a fundamental constitutional right to be heard, not necessarily on the matters relating to the petition itself, but as a right to be heard. Because here you have, as I said, the purpose of the court is that if one person is aggrieved, to go to the court and say, hey, Mr. hit me with a stone, I want to take the matter to court. But the court is saying, even before the court could determine a hearing, whether or not the guy hit me or what the case might be, he just said, no, I'm not hearing. As far as I'm concerned, the evidence, it doesn't show that the guy hit you for stone, or you didn't say hit you for stone, it might be a bottle. So there wasn't a hearing. And then you appeal to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal says, no, we don't want to hear you either. So obviously you have to go somewhere else. They went to the CCJ. And the CCJ is saying, quite apart from determining whether or not the guy was hit with a stone or a bottle or whatever it is, I think as a rule, the guy deserves to have some kind of hearing. And in the process of deliberation and going through the information that was presented or before the CCJ, they arrive at very telling conclusions, as we'll see later in the report, very telling conclusions. So I will rest here for now, but to end by saying there is a threat to our democracy. And this is and should be the number one issue for discussion at this stage. Nothing else matters if our democracy is threatened by not having free and fair elections.
All right, thank you very much, Brother Thomas. You did justice to the way you opened up here this afternoon, giving us much food for thought, putting much food on the table as it pertains to this topic. Let me shout out as we move along before we move across to Brother Joseph, Marilyn Pascal, those of you just tuned in, Brother Cyrus Raphael, Joe Benjamin, Bernard Allen, Ezra Winston, Usila James, Janice Shaplis, Kempton Paul, Peter Cabon, Marvin Sheldon Boland, Joan Farrell, Mr. John Blanchard, Dave Butron, Margaret Wallace, Eldika John, and the list goes on. Thank you guys for listening to the conversation this afternoon. Read the summary report that was handed down this week by the CCJ. Let me move across now to Brother David so that he can chime in as to what he heard in terms of the opening statements or your own thoughts, Brother Joseph, on that report from the CCJ?
Well, Brother Lofty and the audience, what this reports does, that report is a scathing indictment on our electoral process. What it does is tell us what we have known for a while, that our elections are not free, are not fair. Okay? What this report has done is has confirmed what the opposition forces has been saying all along, that our electoral process is flawed and it needs to be remedied. What this report did, it brought to light Anthony Asafan's worst nightmare. Because remember, Anthony Asafan said to us, to Roosevelt Skerrit and his associates, that if the Electoral Commission was allowed to do its job and cleanse the voters list, what would happen? So what this is saying here, that the Electoral Commission has failed us. It has failed us tremendously, and it has failed us because it is a politically driven establishment, no longer operating as an independent establishment, working for and on behalf of the people. And if Dominicans do not take up upon this report and do what they have to do, then we will be in even deeper trouble. Because we have a saying that the power in people is greater than the people in power. But if the people do not exercise their power by either voting the right way or standing up when wrong is being done, then might as well they have no power. We saw what happened in Sri Lanka recently when the people decided to stand up. And that is what the people of Dominica need to do. We have to take this report, go through it painstakingly, and analyze it and see what the court is telling us. It is telling us that the ball is in our hands to do what we need to do to right the ship. You understand? And Dominicans need to understand that. They need to wake up. They need to understand, as Mr. Alvin Thomas said recently. And last week, we had Adelaide Paul on the program, and she kept insisting that elections has consequences. And election really do have consequences. Whether you vote or not, election has consequences, because whoever you put in there to do the job of the people, if they're not doing it, then it's going to affect us all. And so we have to take our vote seriously, very seriously, and stop voting on emotions and vote rather based on principles and policies, because emotions has only gotten us in deeper trouble than anything else. All we keep hearing is we labor power, we love labor Gatwavai, we love our PM. Well, where is that getting us? It's not getting us anywhere. It's only getting us in further trouble. And so the people of Dominica need, like I said, to get a copy of this report, read it, analyze it, and make certain decisions based on that report. Because that report is actually guiding us. It is telling us that our system is flawed and it needs to be fixed. And if we do not fix it, well, as we say in Dominica, crap will smoke our pipe. So we need to get on board. We need to join forces and put up some resistance. We need to put up some resistance. Let these people understand that Dominica is ours too, not just theirs. Okay?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, my brother. You did an excellent job in terms of your contribution here. Just before I move across to Paula so that she too could chime in, let me just alert you guys, those of you listening to us this afternoon and viewing, this program that we have in here from the Civic Vibes end, we have decided that it will be in two parts. Today being the first part, next week we will take on the second part. This week really will be going through with a fine-tooth comb, as it were, through some of the jargons in that report, through some of the line statements. Basically, these two gentlemen there will help us understand better what the CCJ is saying to us in Dominica in very unambiguous terms. Next week, if the good Lord above is willing, we'll be having the second leg, but the second leg will be more or less be a call to action segment, where again, we'll be looking at the report and bringing persons on board. Brother Thomas has pledged to be first. Zed Lloyd most likely will be first next week as well. And we're trying to get a legal mind to sort of come on board and solidify in their own words what the CCJ has said to us and other August bodies keep saying to us in Dominica as a people as to how we, and I want to underscore and underline that, how we as a people can fix our electoral matters. Too long, Dominicans, we have left it up to persons at the electoral office. We have left it up to other bodies, other entities, other agencies to help us out along the way. And they have failed thus far. And so here it is, the highest court in our land, which is in our region, which is the CCJ. They're telling us in no uncertain terms what needs to be done before any other election is held in Dominica. And so it is us now as a people, as the old people would say, we need to give ourselves guard, put ourselves in order, as it were, unify the forces. That is a critical element, and do what needs to be done in the interest of Dominica's future. Paula, I yield to you at this time.
Yes, thank you very much, Lofty. And thank you to Mr. Josie and Mr. Thomas. Couldn't have said it better. Lofty, time and time again, we've been saying the very same thing. For the persons who believe that what the CCJ has said earlier this week, it is something new. It is not new to many of us. But for the persons who believe, and this afternoon I want to be very specific, particularly the Labour supporters, the ones that call themselves the diehard Labour supporters, who keep saying time and time again, where we have had stolen elections, 3 or 4 elections in Dominica, but it was more glaring in broad daylight in 2019. And they keep saying that they have seen nothing wrong, or the Labour Party government had done nothing wrong. This afternoon, I'm saying to them, the CCJ has confirmed to them that what has been happening here time and time again, it has been wrong. And we, the people of Dominica, like sometimes some people say, God help those who help themselves. And now is the right time that the people who are supposed to do the right things will not do the right things. And what we as a nation is supposed to do is they will not give it to us, so we have a right to take it. Last election, there was mixed feelings from different people. Some were saying we should not have gone through the elections. Some were saying, yes, if you do not vote, then the Labour Party will have all 21 seats. We are saying this time around, there should never, ever be a next election in Dominica like what happened in 2019. And I'm not even talking about the few elections before, I'm talking about 2019. Because what I saw with my own eyes, that there were planes at Medvin Hall Airport. Well, now they has changed the name, but I still call it Medvin Hall Airport. What I saw, planes down, and it's like waiting for persons who came to Dominica, voted this morning, and to leave this afternoon. And if you are telling me these things were right, then my God, it's like the persons who supported that and believe it was right, but what they heard from the CCJ now, these people should turn around, have a conscience, and have a different heart. Because it is not new what the CCJ have said, but the thing about it is, while I want to say it has been rather very sad what happened this week, when you believe that something has happened and you expecting that the only place you can get redress is at the court. And then the court won't work in your interest while they know what has transpired is wrong. They say to you, okay, go and do what you have to do. So I'm saying to we the Dominican people, we have to make up our mind. Because let me tell you, the police officer cannot kill 68 or 70,000 people in a country. They cannot kill 30 or 35,000 people who are objective to what that the government has been doing. And Dominicans, we need to come together as one. Those who have been divided for too long, after this week's ruling, this is a wake-up call to every right-thinking Dominican who want to continue to live in this country, or those who are overseas, like Mr. Joseph have said, who will retire and want to return home. Dominica, it's for we, it's for you, Lofty, it's for Mr. Thomas, it's for Mr. Joseph, and the persons who are out there and thinking of retiring and want to come back home. You know what a lady said to me last week? She said, I want to come back to Dominica. I have retired for a while now, but I'm just holding on to see what is happening in Dominica, because what I am hearing and what I am seeing, it's like, it's not right. So there's many other persons out there who have this very same feeling, wanting to come back home. But because of the way things are operating here in Dominica, these people are out there in limbo. I'm saying every right Dominican, it's a lesson for us to learn, because it really hurts. Because you cannot be in a country where time and time again, like Mr. Thomas have said, the OACS have said it, there's other organizations that have said it, that we need to do the right thing in Dominica. But again, like Mr. Astafan have said, if Roosevelt does the right thing, then this will never cause him to win the next election in Dominica. I rest here for now, Lofty. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Paula. Thanks as well for your eloquent remarks here based on the topic at hand we're having. Let me, before I move across to Brother Thomas, so that we can continue on here. As I said, we'll be having the second leg of this program next week. And the call to action aspect of this program, that will be under serious microscope lens next week. A brother just sent in a question that basically asking, how is that report from the CCJ will be hold on, let me just get his comment here. It says, how will the opposition and civil society organizations disseminate relevant extract of the CCJ's report on our elections in Dominica? So that answer, these answers will be focused on next week. That will be part and parcel of the call to action from we the citizenry end. So the brother who sent this in, please tune in next week for at least an answer in that regard.
Well, if I may just respond very briefly to that, Lofty. That's a very pertinent question that this caller has asked. And although I know, as you said, next week we'll be having part 2, where you will have maybe a legal person to interpret some of the legal jargons. As of now, as we speak, I'm challenging all the various organizations, NGOs, civic organizations, religious groups, trade unions, business sectors, all of those persons in Dominica. Don't wait for next week. Get a copy of the report. Discuss the report. Look through the report. Read the report. And that is part of our problem. And I agree with Paula. First of all, this is not a question a UWP or DLP or Freedom Party. That's nothing to do with that. This is a matter, as I said in my opening, a threat to our democracy. And it affects everybody. It affects the business sector, the churches, religious groups. And I think as of now, they need to avail themselves of the report, read the report, and those in the community, those among us that are more, how should I say, are more learned in terms of what the report provides, need to explain the report. Because Paula is right, and David have said it too. This report is an indictment on our electoral process in Dominica. So to answer the caller directly, I think now is the time. The report is available online, and those of you who have access to online, which most of us have today, should go online and download a copy of the report. Download a copy of the report, and if you need to print a copy in print, as it would be more, you would be more able to read through it as against on the computer, print a copy and go through it section by section by section. There are 111 sections of paragraphs in the report. It's like a 46, 47 page report. So it's not a very long report. But go through the report, read the report, and get an understanding, because the comments that the CCJ made are very damning. As we will see in conclusion, we'll see how the CCJ concluded with their final thought. But I just wanted to interject before you were about to ask me to make a comment in light of what this viewer, this caller have raised.
Yeah, Brother Thomas, before I go to some questions on the live, and folks, please punch in your questions there, your comments, so that we can have viewers will be part and parcel of the conversation. But before I do just that, let me just ask you guys, in terms of the, Paula touched on it, the electoral office in Dominica. Did the electoral office come under any sort of quote unquote fire in that report, Brother Alvin?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Let me see if I can reference the particular section. As a matter of fact, I have a section there for you. They did. As it relates, for example, to the what you call it, the list, the electoral list, which is a matter that falls within the purview, as we know, of the Electoral Commission. Mm-hmm. It says there, electoral, and that's section 81. Electoral lists are central to the legitimate and lawful elections. That's what they're saying. And that's under section 81, where it deals with electoral list issue. Electoral lists are central to the legitimate and lawful elections. The duty to maintain the integrity of list of electors fall to the Electoral Commission. One complaint in this matter is that the polling clerk, returning officer, and chief election officer failed to use the revised annual list and the supplementary register as the register of electors of the poll. The list complaint of the 10 petitions filed, 9 contain the list complaint. So you had 10 petitions filed and 9 of the 10 complained about the list, which is a central part of the Electoral Commission. And they went on to explain there, referring to various sections as far as it relates.
So which means, Brother Thomas, if I just interject here before we go to the other section.
To the complaint. But then, yeah?
Yes, I was just trying to interject there before you move on and try to reiterate or reinforce what the CCJ said about the electoral list, which, as you says, and we agree, falls squarely under the purview of the electoral office / the Electoral Commission. So based on what they said, am I in my right, Brother Thomas, Brother Joseph, and Paula, to say that the electoral office and the commission, they were at sleep?
Yeah.
Or they were at bay, they did not work or not continue to do the work on behalf of the people?
Exactly. Absolutely. Listen, yeah, that Lofty. Yeah, that one just before David comes in. Section 83, to answer directly what you just asked. Section 83 of the report. It says there, the first instant judge, Justice Glasgow, that was when the matter went initially at the High Court, made the following remarks about the list issue at section 129 of his report, of that particular report.
Yes.
Quote, section 17 of the Registration Act states that the revised annual list and the supplementary register list constitute the register of electors
You
for the respective
you missed a critical word there. Shall
That's right.
constitute.
That's
Yes.
right. Okay. And shall be used as the register for elections. If the pleading are taken as correct, then the use of the preliminary and the supplementary register at the 6th December 2019 election was a patent non-compliance with Section 17 of the Act. You see that, Lofty? A patent non-compliance. That's what they're saying there. So clearly, the Electoral Commission was at serious fault as it relates to the list, which as the CCJ folks indicated, is essential to the legitimate and lawful elections. And there was a patent non-compliance of the last elections. And Justice Glasgow, you know, admitted to that.
Yes, yes.
And further in the report, somewhere further in the report, the CCJ are saying that whatever way the petition goes, this is a matter that needs to be looked into.
Sure. David.
Problem is, will it be looked into? That is the question. Will it be looked into? Because we have an electoral commission that is basically asleep at the wheel. They are not willing to do the work of the people. And so we are going to continue having this type of discussion if the people, I keep emphasizing the people, if the people does not do what they need to do. You understand? Because Brother Thomas mentioned the list. Prior to 2019 election, I got a hold of the Roseau Central list, okay? And I went through it painstakingly, and I identified an entire family who has been out of Dominica for decades, some of whom never registered to vote in Dominica, never voted in Dominica, yet their names were on that list. I have a personal friend, he left Dominica in 1979, just before I did, has never returned to Dominica, but his name is on that list. Why is that? Why is that possible that somebody who has left Dominica so many years, never returned, their name is on that list? It's only because that the government know that they can use this list to do all their shenanigans. And so until the people of Dominica, again, take it upon themselves and do what is necessary, raise the necessary objections, bring in the names that they know should not be on that list, and force the commission to do what it's supposed to do, we will never have free and fair elections in Dominica. I was in Dominica, like I said, a few months ago. I had a conversation with a gentleman, and he was telling me that the day of the election, a relative of his came down to vote and left that same day. Now, that relative had not been in Dominica for over 30 years, so much so that he could not recognize his own family. But because he was given a ticket and a small stipend, he came down to vote and left the same day. And that is the type of elections we have in Dominica. And that is why this present administration will not want electoral reform, because they know that this is the only way they can maintain power in Dominica, is to have that bloated list where they can bring down people by the thousands, give them a little pocket change, put them in strategic areas, and steal the elections. And so again, it comes back to the people. Either we stop them from coming in, or we force the commission to do its job, which is to clean the voters list, complete re-registration, voter ID, and then and only then we can say that we are having fair elections in Dominica. Until that time happens, what we have is, as the CCJ call it, tainted elections. And everybody should know what tainted means, okay? The election observers told us that we were not having free and fair elections in Dominica. Some people, after the 2019 election, They said that the observers said that we had fair elections. The observers never said that. They said what we had was the will of the people. Okay? The election reflected the will of the people. It never said that the election was free or fair. So again, the people of Dominica, the power is in your hands. You have the power to do what is necessary to bring about change, but you can only bring about change if you utilize your power. The power can be sometimes in that one finger where you cast your vote, or in thousands when you come together and demonstrate against the ills that is affecting you. Until that happens, Roosevelt Skerrit is going to sit there like the king that he believed that he is, and just continue taking advantage of Dominica and Dominicans. We need to have an amalgam, a coming of people by the thousands. We don't want to see 100, 150 here and there. We need to see thousands of people in the streets of Roseau. Like I said recently, we had an uprising in Sri Lanka. The prime minister had to resign because that is what the people wanted. We had enough of you, it's time for you to go. Dominicans are fed up. I know that they are. I was down there for 2 months. I spent a lot of time talking to people. I moved around. I engaged everybody. And I know that the majority of Dominicans are fed up. They want change. But in order to effect change, you have to be part of the process. You have to get involved. You cannot stay home when they ask you to come out. You cannot stay home and ask for a live on Facebook. No, you need to be there in person. Let these people understand that you have had enough and you're willing to do what is necessary to bring about change in Dominica. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking.
All right, brother. Thank you very much in terms of your asking and your pleadings here. Bro, just before Paula come in, I just want to go back to the report and highlight a point that the CCJ made at section.
Before you go any further, we have a gentleman on there, Mr. Clarence Christian, referring to 38 petitions all thrown out without evidence. Does Mr. Christian realize that evidence was not supposed to be produced during that trial? Is he aware of that?
Well, you see, Brother Joseph, there are certain times I leave certain things where they are. And I really wasn't going to take on Clarence Christian this afternoon because Clarence Christian know exactly what you said.
Yes.
But being this guy is one of the henchmen, and he will continue to, what do you call that in Patois, shigone as it were?
Yes.
Try to disrupt something positive that is happening. Clarence Christian know that evidence was not really required.
Was not.
As to when those petitions were filed, but he's there under the light pushing that rubbish.
Yes.
And so Clarence Christian, so you know better, you ought to do better. Okay, so let us just move on from that and not waste too much time on that. I was just saying under section 88 of the report, and this is just to strengthen what Alvin
I'm glad
Thomas,
you got that. Go ahead, Lofty. I'm glad.
That is just to strengthen what Thomas said a while ago. Read the electoral list. It says in 88, and people listen very, very carefully. It says in 88, now the CCJ is saying, what Justice Glasgow concluded on the totality of the preliminary evidence placed before him on the pleadings was that in relation to the general elections held in Dominica on the 6th of December 2019, there, open quote, was a patent non-compliance with Section 17 of the Registration Act, close quote. This is a matter of most serious concern that ought to be investigated irrespective of the outcome of this appeal and of these petitions. And so, ladies and gentlemen, young people, I cannot say it better than the CCJ. Thomas cannot say it better than these law lords. That is where they said it in section 88. Irrespective of the outcome, then these concerns are grave in nature and they should be investigated irrespective of the outcome. And so I just thought of plugging that in to strengthen the point Brother Thomas made earlier.
Perfect interjection, Lofty. As a matter of fact, I had that flag to come in after David, and you are so right. And this is the point. And that is why I'm saying, Lofty, this report shouldn't be a report just pushed aside. This is a report that the Bar Association has an obligation to examine, because what in fact it is saying, the last election that was held, there appeared to be a violation of an act of Parliament, the Registration Act. There appeared to have been a violation. And the CCJ is saying, this is the most serious. They don't just say serious, you know. They qualify it and they say, this is a matter of the most serious concern that ought to be investigated, irrespective of the outcome of this appeal and of this petition. So they have an obligation. The business community have an obligation. The trade unions have an obligation. The religious bodies in Dominica have an obligation. This has nothing to do with Labour Party or UWP Party or Freedom Party, as I said earlier. This has to do with our democracy as a democratic country. And there are laws. And somewhere in the report, when I referenced earlier, the CCJ made that point, that the Constitution is what matters in Dominica, not the Parliament, the Constitution. And if it appears that those acts were violated and there was a patent non-compliance, as indicated by Justice Glasgow, this should be investigated. But I have hope, and I've said this repeatedly, whenever I have the opportunity to come on any of those programs. I have hope that Dominicans one day is going to say enough is enough. I mean, those of us who are old enough to live have seen what has happened in other political environments and other places. We've seen it. The most recent case we can refer to is Grenada. We see what happened in Grenada, where a political party, the previous election, they won all 15 seats, 15 to 0. We had one time in Dominica where they say 10-1 is murder, where the party got, one party got 10 seats, the other one got 1, and they said 10-1 is murder. Well, the election prior to the one just held in Grenada, it was more than murder. It was 15-0. And the Grenadian people say, no, we've had enough. We've had enough. You've served, we appreciate what you've done, but we think we need to change where we are heading to. So I have the hope that someday, sometime soon, Dominicans will realize what the CCJ has said in their report and to take action based on that.
Brother Thomas, the majority of people in Dominica have come to that realization already. The fact remains that their wishes are being circumvented by Dominicans living overseas who are being brought in by the regime. Had not these Dominicans interfere in the elections, I don't think we probably would be having the discussion. But it's only because that the regime knows that the majority of people living on island are disgruntled, are fed up, and have had enough of them. And they're willing to get rid of them. That is the reason why they are so willing to keep that bloated list so that they can bring in their voters, like I said, and place them in strategic areas in order to steal the election.
Well,
so we need to get these Dominicans living overseas to understand that, yes, you have family in Dominica, you have friends in Dominica. They are the one who should decide who is going to govern them, not us out here. We are living out here. We came out here for a reason. Some of us came out here willingly. Some of us came out here because our parents brought us out here, and we established a life here, and so we remain here. Let the people on the island determine who the government should be. And we need to stop interfering by going down and voting these people and then leaving them to suffer while we come back to our so-called greener pastures.
David, you're absolutely correct, but there's a strategy to deal with that. I will not go into that on air right now. That's not the forum for it.
Right.
But trust me, there's a strategy to deal with all of those actions.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to it. This is not the purpose for a day this afternoon, but
Right.
there's a way to deal with that. Trust me, there is a way to deal with that.
Yes, gentlemen, thank you very much. Let me move across to Paula now so that she could chime in. After she delivers, we'll take a short musical break, and then we'll take some of the comments from our viewership this afternoon. Paula, yes, go right on.
Yes, Lofty. Lofty, earlier on, I said that I was addressing the labor rights in particular, because after the CCJ have said what they have said, and it is clear that what the CCJ have said, that there have not been any fair elections in Dominica. And you are telling me there are still persons who are supposed to be educated people who would still say this type of things, like what this gentleman actually is trying to say, and turn and spin things around. But listen to this. There's a lot of Dominicans who live out there in the diaspora, like Mr. Joseph has said, that these people should not determine who run the country because they do not live here. No. Last election, we have a population, according to what the last census that they have done, about 70,000 persons. Now, when you have 70,000 persons in the country, and you're talking about more than the amount of persons that reside in the country is voting. So it means that the little babies are voting, the bedridden persons are voting, because there are a number of persons who are at the hospital time and time again during elections, and these people cannot go to polling stations to vote. So it means that there's clear indication that things have not been going right. Now, for the number of Dominicans who live over there, and like some of them would say, okay, I send money back home for my family, I send groceries back home for my family. So because of that, I believe I should participate in the elections. But guess what? A number of these persons have not been to Dominica for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, like even what the gentleman have said, even 30 years. And these people would come to Dominica, vote today, get on a plane and leave the very next day. I want to say, this is how I'm going to describe these people. These are people who are bad-minded. They are wicked, they are malicious, and they are evil. Because you left Dominica and you went out there for greener pastures. And what some of them tend to tell you, that everywhere things are hard. And they say Dominica is no different. But the thing about it is, if things are hard, and you left Dominica and you went to the US, for example, and things are so hard, why are you not coming back to Dominica and face the tune with us? Instead of you just come here, you vote today, and you leave next day. Because you are out there and you are enjoying life. And why, if you have families in Dominica, why would you want to come to Dominica, vote for a government where you do not reside, and go back to another country where you enjoy democracy, and there is none in Dominica? Because we continue to say Dominica is a democratic country. It is supposed to be a democratic country, but what we are seeing is like we are almost not in a democracy, because the number of things that are happening in Dominica, where some people feel when you stand up or you speak out, it's like they doesn't know who that you support, if you support the government or the opposition, because there are persons who support the government and they tell you straight up, I believe the things are not going right. And they are saying it's hardship and it's getting worse. And all they say, oh, out there is hard as well. I want to say the things that we have in Dominica here, it's like we can do much better to the other countries where a lot of persons leave Dominica and go out there to try to have a life. Because look at our rivers, look at our rich soil and everything. There are countries out there who are crying to have the water that we have. There are countries that are crying to have the ground provisions and all of that we have. And we in Dominica here, what are we exporting to make the lives better? So it's not just come to Dominica and just vote, spend a day or 2 days because you got a ticket and because you figure out you get a little pocket change. No, you shouldn't do that to your fellow men. And I'm saying we have to do better than that. And we have to take what they do not want to give us, because that is the only way we are going to get a change in Dominica. And the Electoral Commission and the other persons who are supposed to do what they have to do, for us, and they continue to fail us. We have to say to them, enough is enough. Because when Mr. Glasgow speaks, and he say whatever that should be done, you have failed the people of Dominica too, because you all should have done the right thing, and you all didn't do the right thing. So you all are making like macaque with the people of Dominica. So we have to stand up and we have to put a stop to that.
All right, thank you very much, Paula. In terms of your positive words, positive stance for country, as I said, the conversation is going so far, so good, excellent deliveries from all our guests here and Paula as well. But we must engage some of our persons who are there with us, the greater number of you guys out there, pretty close to 200, 166 of you out there at this time. So let's take a little musical break. We're gonna play a number from the Dice, entitled this one, Communist Country. And then we will try to stick one or two comments in between and your suggestions as well. But just before we take that break, Brother Thomas, someone is asking on the live feed, where can they get a copy of the report online?
I'll be happy to have a copy to the individual. So if the individual could share his contact information with you, his email or whatever, and then we'll take it from there and I'll have a copy sent to him.
Okay, send to him or her.
Yeah, him or her. Yeah.
WhatsApp as well.
All right.
All right. Yeah, no
It can
problem.
be done on WhatsApp as well, Lofty.
Yes, it can be done on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So anybody listening out there,
Yeah.
my number is a public number. It is 245.
Just make that connection and we'll be happy to get a copy.
Yeah, 245-2396. That is my personal number. So you can reach out and I can put you in contact with Alvin or I myself could send you that report. All right, let us just play this number and we'll get back to the conversation in just a bit. This one from the Dice.
In my life, I know something more educated people. It is surrender existence. And the best way to get into trouble is to try and liberate oppressed people who don't know where they stand, they don't understand that binding together people's power is the only solution of right. But they want to shut me up. People feel free to talk in communist China. And Venezuela, what is it with you? People protesting. Because you shut me up. Are we not free to talk in Dominica? And Antigua, we just have to win. All right around there. Give me, take your own kidnap me. We are living in no communist country.
All right, indeed, we are not living in no communist country, says the Dice, and I want to agree with him 110% on that. Let us go to some of the comments here as we're moving on. This brother here, Chris Bugono, is writing, a Laborite just tried getting me blocked. Okay, from Facebook. Okay, Chris, I guess that is some personal business there with you and the Laborite. So we'll leave that out for now. Let me see. Marshall Lawrence is writing, true, Paula. Dominica is still favored with resources that a number of countries do not have. That is Lawrence's statement here to the conversation. Dorian Dorival writes here, prisoners are also voting. Brother Dorian is saying that here. He'll have to show us how that is being done in the interest of transparency. Let me see some other comments coming in here. Marshall Dura is writing, you are right, David. It happened in Casa Bruce. I saw people who have not been here for more than 15 years. All right. A number of comments coming in here on the feed. Let me see if I could take one or two more before I resume with you guys. Some persons are really getting at Clarence Christian this afternoon. Folks, Clarence Christian maybe is, easier to learn.
To learn and distract.
But before he internalize or before he digest, obviously he make some distractions. So don't worry if Clarence Christian too much. Kempton Paul is writing, I live abroad and agree, but again, it was the system that allowed that. Now that the people have realized that the system is going to come in another direction. This is where he's saying that is Kempton Paul, the e-passport situation comes in. Christine Nicholas is saying, if the government and the courts are one, how could the courts investigate the government? Folks, based on the suggestions here thus far, based on anything that I said in terms of the comments, anything stood out that you guys want to chime in on?
Well, I think the comments raise are very valid comments. I mean, it sort of captures all of what we're discussing here right now as it relates to the question of electoral reform. Let me just go back and make two other quick reference to the report, because like I said, the report is a 111 section report. And there are a number of things there that the CCJs made comments on, number of areas that is not favorable to our electoral process in Dominica, I must say. In just quick response to Paula's comments that she made as regards to and David as well, folks coming from overseas. In section 14 of the report, importation of electors, in relation to the complaint in the petition about the importation of voters by the DLP, the court stated that in Dominica, and that's the court, meaning that at the lower court where Justice Glasgow was presiding, the court stated that in Dominica, there was no offense against transporting a voter to the polling station. See how they refer to it? Transporting a voter to the polling station. Once there was no corrupt bagging so as to influence the vote of that person in a particular way, and no such bagging was pleaded. So bear in mind, again, the matter didn't go to trial. So there wasn't a situation where the matter went to trial. The petitioners were able to justify that particular concern, but the court took its position and said, oh, you're just transporting a voter to the polling station. That's not thing. There is no way that you show that that person has been corrupt or anything like that, which would fall under treating. So here again, it was thrown out. Okay, and that is the crux of the matter. I mean, here you have a justice sitting on a matter as important as that and saying that there was no offense against transporting a voter to the polling station once there was no corrupt bagging. I mean, come on, Lofty. We live in Dominica. It's a small society. Everybody knows and sees and understands what's going on. We are not dumb. It was, what's his name? It was the Ghost who had sung a calypso a couple years ago, dummy in a can. We are not dummy in a can, you know? Now, also, as it relates again to the non-compliance, the patent non-compliance in Section 17. Hear what the CCJ continued to say in Section 89. This court agrees that for the purposes of these Section 41A election petition, so that's they're referring to 41A in the Constitution, that challenge the validity of an election, the sufficiency of the material facts pleaded in this petition was a matter for the first instance judge discretion assessment. So they are saying whatever was pleaded, that was for the discretion of the judge, Judge Glasgow, with which this court will not likely interfere. So the CCJ is saying, we're not going into that. But however, the CCJ went on to say, however, that does not mitigate the egregiousness of the default, if true, taken in the context of free and fair election and the democratically sacrosanct nature of the right to vote. So the CCJ have described that as egregious. You know what the word egregious means? When somebody tells you this is an egregious act, it means it is a shocking act. It is appalling. It is horrific. It is horrifying. It is horrible. It is terrible. It is awful. That is what the CCJ is saying. That is awful for that to have happened, should that be the case. And that is why they're saying, no matter how whether or not this was a final or not final decision, or how these petitions may have been pleaded, this is a matter that has to be looked into. And that is why I am challenging an attorney out here in Dominica, or a group of attorneys, to take up this matter. I'm challenging the business sector to take up this matter, in the CCJ's report, where the CCJ is calling for this matter to be looked into, and look into it. That's a challenge, because this is a very serious matter. Very serious matter. So yes, the question raised by the viewers and the callers are quite pertinent. Quite pertinent. And like David said earlier, it's back to the people. But I have that hope. It might be a thin hope, might be a slim hope, but I have that hope that at some point Dominicans are going to say enough is enough. We've had enough, and we're not going to tolerate this nonsense anymore. I know it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
All right, David, any thoughts from you, bro?
It is indeed just a matter of time, because people can only take so much. And eventually, when their back is against the wall, they are going to revolt. And revolt very badly, they will. Now, I'm not one who calls for violence. I don't like violence, but sometimes violence is the last resort. And if that's what it has to come down to, then that's what it will be, because the people can only take so much. When you continue to trample on the necks of individuals, any chance they get to break away and retaliate, they will. Because I always say, well, there's a saying that every action builds a reaction. But I always take it further to say that every action builds an equal or more powerful reaction. And that is the case 99% of the time. The reaction is usually greater than the original action. And I really don't want it to come to that. But the way that things are going in Dominica, I suspect that's what is going to happen. Just like they did in Sri Lanka, that's what is going to happen.
David, I mean, yes, I concur with you. But again, let me, for benefit of the CCJ's report, again, it may sound ad nauseam, but for the benefit of the CCJ report, let me again refer persons to section 77, based on what your comments you've just made. Moreover, without such free and fair election, the preambular values of the creation and maintenance of and respect for lawfully constituted authority would be fatally undermined. The consequences of such a denial, that a reflection on Caribbean history demonstrate, includes loss of legitimacy, public unrest, and even revolt. You and I didn't say that, you know.
No.
You and I didn't call for violence.
No,
but the CCJ is saying in their report at section 77 that if this matter is not addressed and looked at in the manner that it should, and we do not take appropriate action, it could lead to a loss of legitimacy, public unrest, and even revolt. These are the words of the CCJ. Not my words, not your words. So we better take heed on that.
We should.
Those of us listening, and those of us who feel that we could just sit aside and say, oh, I like the Clarence Christians. I didn't want to refer to this gentleman either. But those of us who want to hide behind those things, the enablers as they are, those enablers who enable this corrupt practice and this corrupt behavior in a democracy, this is what will happen. The legitimacy will be questioned. They will lose legitimacy. There will be public unrest, and there may even be revolt. That is at section 77 of the CCJ's report. And they go on to say, in contemporary terms, free and fair elections are so fundamental to the democratic way of life, that without it, the very legitimacy and sovereignty of the constitutional state is brought into question. That's a very strong section in the CCJ's report.
Very strong indeed.
These are strong words. Constituted as it is by the people of Dominica. In this regard, it is worth reminding ourselves. These are the CCJ justice speaking there. The will of the people shall be the basis of the authority, legitimacy of government, unquote. These are not our words. I am merely quoting what the CCJ have said in a document. And these are legal scholars. These are folks much brighter than me.
And you.
With my little 6th standard education. And they have looked at the matter. They have deliberately examined the entire matter. They had information before them that maybe you and I would never see or have. They have assessed the situation and they have arrived at that conclusion. And these are strong conclusions. And that is just one of the many sections. So clearly, the point I want to make, and I really want to stress on, is that this is not a matter that rests solely with any one or two political parties. Yes, as a political party, they will have an interest, granted. But this is a matter that goes beyond that. This is a matter that requires the attention, the dialogue, the discussion, and action on all Dominicans, so that we can arrest the situation and some of the areas as identified by the CCJ in their report. And if you ask me, that report has gone even much further than previous reports we've had in the past. While it's true to say that the CARICOM and the OAS and the other persons have indicated or alluded to some of the areas that we are addressing now in terms of campaign financing, overseas voters and all these other areas, the voters list and all of that, the CCJ have gone deeper into it. And they are making certain, they're arriving at certain conclusions based on what was before them, what they were able to examine, what they were able to assess. So this report, to my mind, is really, it's at the apex body. I mean, where else could we go? Who else could give us a report like that? And they are calling on us, as is indicated in their final thoughts of the conclusion. They're telling us, hey guys, you guys need to do something, you know, before any other elections. That's what they're telling us. So I would hope that all and sundries and all those who have ears to hear and have eyes to see and a mind to read will read this report and say to themselves, well, hey, guys, we need to do something. We need to fix something. We need to do something. As against dismissing it or entertaining all these political gimmicks and unnecessary name calling and all of that. This is deeper than that. It touches and it affects our democracy as a country.
Yeah, true. And guys, just before I move across to Paula, I just need to highlight two more sections of the report because, gentle people, that is what we are doing in this program this afternoon, is to going through certain sections of the report and highlighting them, especially where the CCJ did justice to the cause of free and fair elections. And it says here, under the subtopic, final thoughts, that is section 108 and 109. Let me read those things to you verbatim so that you could hear for yourself what these law lords at CCJ said. It says at 108, in conclusion, These appeals have been dismissed on the basis of want of jurisdiction. Let me pause here. Let me read that again for Clarence, Christian, and others who are going around with their notion of lack of evidence. The CCJ judges, they are saying here through the report, in conclusion, these appeals, that is the 10 appeals, the 10 petitions, have been dismissed on the basis of want of jurisdiction. They did not say want of evidence. And so I just want to make that crystal clear to people like Clarence and others with their very warped way of thinking. It continues. Because there was no final decision, as Brother Thomas said before, or an order made by the judge for the purposes of Section 40 and Section 46 and 7 of the Constitution of Dominica. It continues critically. However, there remain areas of grave concern about how the process of these elections was conducted. Future elections in Dominica ought not to proceed with these similar taints. And for those of you out there, let me just break down what the word taint mean for us. Is that when you pollute something, when you contaminate something, when you make a good something bad, that is what these people are saying, that future elections in Dominica should not continue with those electoral contaminants, those electoral stain that is defeating the purpose of free and fair elections. Section 109 in their report says, for my part, in relation to the electoral list issue and the related preliminary conclusions of the trial judge on the pleadings as to unlawfulness, the Court of Appeal arguably may have had jurisdiction on constitutional grounds, irrespective of whether the decision was considered in the context of Section 46 and 7, final or not. That is the parts of our Constitution that deals with that aspect. It continues by saying, there can be no doubt that this particular decision conclusively preempted any further inquiry into arguable unlawful conduct by the election authorities that potentially went to the root of free and fair elections. And so, gentle people, these are not Alvin words, as I said. These are not all words from Civic Vibes. These are the people from the highest court that Roosevelt Skerritt put us through without consulting us, that is the CCJ. They are basically saying that our elections in the past have been tainted. Tainted really means corrupt practices, corrupt things went in on our elections. And so we should not continue with similar type corrupt activities, making a mockery of our democracy. That is in a nutshell what these gentle judges have said to us.
But
and so just before you chime in, Alvin, for those of you who would like the petition, not the petition, the summary report, my technical team just advised me here that this week, most likely maybe Monday, Tuesday, that will be on our website, the Civic Vibes website. So you can visit the Civic Vibes website, that is, at civicvibes.com, and you'll be able to have a copy of that report there. So you can print it out and read it there. All right. Again, it is civicvibes.com. Please go to that website where that online summary report will be posted there. If not Monday, no later than Tuesday. And as well, people, if you have a comment, a query, you can plug it in there on the website. And when we come on these programs, we can attend to your questions or comments on the website. All right. So I just thought I would plug that in there. Yes, Alvin.
But I just wanted to say very quickly though, in reference to the two sections that you just read, section 108 and 109. 109 is worth repeating, you know. Look at what is said in 109. For my part, and that is one of the justices writing on behalf of the rest of the team. There were 5 justices on that system.
Yeah, he acted as a chief.
He's acting as a chief. And he's saying, for my part, and again, that's what I've been talking. I'm not no lawyer. That's a justice of the law, someone who understands the law. When you get to that level of law, it means you have done all what needs to be done. Again, granted, no man is infallible, but at the end of the day, that's where he is, the justice. For my part, in relation to the electoral list, which we referenced earlier, where Justice Glasgow said that there was non-compliance, there was patent non-compliance, and the related preliminary conclusion of the trial judge on the pleading as to unlawfulness, the Court of Appeal arguably may have had jurisdiction on constitutional grounds, irrespective of whether the decision was considered in the context of section 46 or 7, final or not. So basically what it was saying is what I alluded to earlier. We under the Constitution are entitled to freedom of a number of things. Freedom of fair hearing, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and a whole host of things. Now, when you get to that stage where persons feel aggrieved based on the way their elections went, and they file a petition, and you as a trial judge just throws it out, and you throws it out in a manner where you did not arrive at a final decision. Your decision was interlocutory, which means no final decision in legal jargon. And then now you try to get redress to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal shut the door on you as well. Where does that leave us as a society? Doesn't it leave us to anarchy? Doesn't it leave us with unrest? Doesn't it leave us with revolt? Doesn't it leave us, I mean, where else could you go? What's the purpose of the courts? The courts are here, as I said, to bring justice, to listen to the poor man's case, to listen to the rich man's case, to listen to the aggrieved. So the door is shut in your face. The Court of Appeal shut in your face. So where do you go? And that is where the CCJ is coming in. Thank God for the CCJ. There can be no doubt that this particular decision conclusively preempted any further inquiry into arguable unlawful conduct by the elections authorities that potentially, hear what it says? That potentially went to the roots of free and fair election. So they're saying what came, this matter went to the root of free and fair elections. This is a major issue. And this is not an issue, as I will keep saying, that is left to Civic Vibes or NJAM or concerned citizens. That's a collective effort to ensure that what happened during the last election never happens again, based on the findings of the CCJ. So I really want to underscore that, Lofty. It cannot more than mention it, because at the end of the day, the social medias and all these pundits and all these enablers will go out there and say, oh, Civic Vibes program, oh, Lofty again, he just talking about the election was good, the election wasn't thing, we say they stole election, you know, that's the kind of vibes you're going to get. But these are the words of the CCJ. That's not my words or your words. This is the CCJ describing the manner in which the elections were conducted. And that is a serious indictment. And therefore, the pressure has to be brought to bear on the Electoral Commission. Again, as I said earlier, I'm not here to discuss strategy as to what strategic moves need to be made. That's for another forum or another environment. But clearly, there needs to have in place some strategic move and directions to ensure that the Electoral Commission does what it's supposed to do. And that we ensure that come our next general election, we don't have a repeat of some of the irregularities and the matters raised in that CCJ's report.
David.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for reiterating 109. Very, very critical. David, a question to you, sir. Don't you find it sort of funny, fishy, that not a drum beat has been heard yet from the electoral office, electoral commission standpoint on that Skaven report?
Indeed. And I'm asking myself, why is that? Why is that no one from the electoral commission, especially Mr. Duncan Stowe, has said anything? Nobody has been willing to speak up or speak out as to this report. The reason being, they know that they failed Dominica, they failed Dominicans. They know that. And they have to accept responsibility for what happened during our last elections, because they did not do what they were supposed to do. Okay? We talk about the revised list. We talk about objections being raised. Nothing happened about this. They knew all of this was going on, and they did absolutely nothing. Because as we all know, it's no secret that 3 members of that commission are passport sellers. So basically, they work for the government. These guys are not going to do what is necessary for the people of Dominica, because they're only looking out for their personal interests. And that is why, basically, we need a new commission. We need a new commission with not 5 members, but maybe 7, like we had before. Independent individual who's going to work for and on behalf of the people of Dominica. Not this commission that we have there right now, because they are ineffective and they are not willing to do what is necessary. We know for a fact, like I said, 3 members are basically government appointees. The third one is appointed by the president, but he's basically a government appointee, because we know the president came from the government. So these guys are only looking out for themselves and their personal interests. And that is why the people of Dominica have to do what is necessary to force the commission to do its work. They were placed there to do the will of the people, not that of the government. And so the people, like I said, the ultimate power lies in the hands of the people. Okay? It's either during elections or through demonstration. You can effect change through election or through demonstration. Pick one. Election has come and gone, so now we have to resort to the other one, and that is civil unrest. If that's what it takes, then so shall it be.
If that's what it takes, so shall it be. Paula, before you come in here, there's a comment that I wanted to refer to. It's eluding me right about now, but basically, if I remember it very well, I think that person is from St. Lucia and they're listening to the conversation we're having. And that person basically said that all what we are discussing here on the program, Dominica's mess as it pertains to elections, that was where St. Lucia was once upon a time. But the St. Lucian people basically fixed the problem. And so I just wanted to highlight that before I call on Paula to give her comments. Yes.
It's not just St. Lucia. Antigua had the same issue. All the other islands had similar issues, but
yes,
they dealt with it. And again, the people knew what they wanted and they went for it and they got it. In Dominica, we are sitting on our laurels and look like we're waiting on foreign forces to come in and help us. It's not going to happen. Dominica is a sovereign nation. You have to take care of your business. Deal with your issues. That's the way it's supposed to be, and that's the way it should be.
Yes, and the specific comment, I found it back. It says here from Lydia Francis, everything that is being discussed here is like you're speaking about St. Lucia. The same thing happened. No Labour Party is good. Lydia Francis continues to write, you could not have said it any better, miserable and safe. That was a comment she was responding to from Lyndon George. Yes, Paula, we are like 15 minutes away from that time, so we have to kind of bring it together as we look at the finishing line in just a bit. Go right on.
Yes, Lofty, thank you. Mr. Thomas said earlier, made mention of when persons were going to the polling stations to vote, and the other persons were saying like they didn't see anybody receiving payment, or persons were being forced, something to that extent at polling stations. So it's like, in other words, it's like nothing really went wrong at the polling stations. But guess what? If a Dominican who live in, for example, let's say in the US or England, receive a ticket from the government to come to Dominica to vote, this is bribery, because you receive a ticket to come to Dominica to vote, and they would have primed you up before, telling you, okay, when you come to Dominica, you have to vote for the Labour Party because it's the Labour Party that gave you a ticket. So you do not expect that when I come to the polling station on a voting day, you have to come and tell me again that I have to go and vote for Labour Party, because I have already known that in as much as I got the ticket, you have already told me this is the reason why you give me the ticket, is to come to Dominica to vote for you.
Paula, let me just help you out there. And you know the most ridiculous reasoning or rationale they give after that is done? They say they know their supporters. And so they're giving their supporters their tickets to come and vote for them. So in their mind, that does not tantamount to treating or bribery.
Okay. No, the thing about it is, a lot of these persons, after this happened, they go out there and they speak and they say, I came to Dominica, I got a ticket, I got money. Who you expected me to vote for if not the Labour Party? So you do not have to see them at the polling station on that day with that candidate for the Labour Party actually telling them, remember that you have to vote for me. They already know that because that was their mission. And where are all the judges and these people of the CCJ? Where are they? Are they living in a different world than where many other persons know what's happening in Dominica? For example, where somebody would have gotten paid to come to Dominica to vote, where somebody, for example, all these bands and people that came from overseas to come here to perform. And the CCJ and the judges and them, are they living in a different world than many other persons who know exactly what transpired here in Dominica? I'm saying these people are wicked set of people.
No, Paula,
things
yeah.
right for them.
Paula, let me just clarify there quickly. That section that I referenced, section 14 of the CCJ report, it's not the CCJ that's condoning or saying that. The CCJ is just making reference. Again, the section says, in relation to the complaint in the petition about the importation of voters by the DLP, the court stated that in Dominica, meaning that the local court where Justice Glasgow preside without a trial. So they're giving a sort of synopsis of what was presented. It wasn't the CCJ condoning or saying or supporting anything like that. It says in relation to the complaint in the petition, the petitioners complained about the importation of electors. And they're saying about the importation of voters by the DLP, the court stated that in Dominica, there was no offense against transporting voters to the polling station. Once there was no corrupt baggage to that. So that is Justice Glasgow that is saying that. That is saying that no offense and they couldn't show proof that persons were bribed or corrupted by way of transporting them to vote for the DLP. That's what they were saying. They're just reporting. But bear in mind, the matter didn't go to trial. The matter ended up in what they call an interlocutory decision. So not a final decision. So Justice Glasgow didn't even give the petitioners a benefit to plead their case, to present evidence, to have a trial, and to say, well, hey, this is the evidence that I have that shows that Alvin got a ticket from New York to fly down here, or there was 6 flights that came in. They didn't even get to that stage. Based on what preliminary matters that was before him, he just said, strike out, strike out, strike out, and just threw everything out. And that is hence the reason why the matter could not go to the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal was right in their decision that they took, because the matter wasn't a final decision. And the Court of Appeal couldn't review or look at a matter that was not final. They couldn't appeal to the Court of Appeal, the petitioners. And that is when they decided to go to the CCJ. And as you will notice in the report, in the CCJ's finding, the CCJ looked at it, and as was stated in the various sections that was referenced, the CCJ says, no, that is beyond, let's not focus too much on the matter at hand, but let us look at this whole question of one's fundamental rights under the Constitution to hear. One of the concerns that the CCJ raised was the length of time these matters take to be determined and to be heard. And that was unacceptable. They made comments to that effect in their report. So it wasn't a situation of the CCJ. I think we can say the CCJ did an excellent review of the matters, I will say again, an excellent review. They outline clearly what their jurisdiction, what legal jurisdiction they had in the matter. And they made it quite understand that they're not here trying to determine whether the judge was right or wrong. That is not for them to determine. But having looked at the entire matter that was before them, they arrived at the conclusion that our election process was tainted. And that in itself is strong enough to say everything else. And I think as it boils down now, it's a matter for us to take this matter into our hands. When I say us, I mean Dominicans. And earlier on, I think when David spoke, he made reference to the fact that some people take offense. Oh, Alvin, you're all the way in Atlanta and thinking, yes, I'm all the way in Atlanta and I will continue to talk because I'm a Dominican. In case some people forget, I'm a Dominican. I was born in Dominica, I'm a Dominican, and I have a right to speak. And I will continue to speak on matters as it affects Dominicans, especially matters that are not right, that is unfair, that is unjust. That has been my life story, even growing up in Dominica. I'm always speaking on behalf of the little man. I served in the credit union movement. I served in the trade union. I serve in the JC's organization. So I'm always representing the cause of the underprivileged and the little man. And where things are wrong, I will continue to speak out against it. And no one is going to shut me out on that. So I think with the CCJ report, we have a splendid opportunity to galvanize effort, to galvanize organization around this issue as it relates to electoral reform.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alvin. We have somebody who is listening to the program as we speak, and that person is very adamant that they make a point. So I'm going to put him now through so that we can have his contribution. Go right ahead, sir.
I'm not hearing.
Hold on.
But we can no longer be mad at the current government, where the constitution, based on the commission, have already been set up that any government in power have majority of the commission and the opposition gets the minority. I think we should change our concept into finding, I don't care if we have to hit the streets for that, mutiny in changing the constitution that, and the independent body that we keep saying, because it's not independent if it's part of politics. It's part of either the party in power and the opposition. So I think what we should strive for is basically an adaptation of the constitution where we find a really independent body for civic society that has nothing to do. And anytime you find them favorable to a party or government, then there should be laws against that too. So we fully understand that the government of the day of the constitution, when it comes to the electoral commission, they don't have to be
Go on again, Lofty.
Not coming clear though.
No, it's not.
All right. Thank you very much, brother. Time to wind up for me, please. Yes, thank you very much. I don't know if you guys could hear what his contribution was. You guys could hear clearly or what?
Well, we heard part of it.
It was a little distorted. It wasn't coming through quite clear enough.
But I understand his point where he's saying that no matter what, the government have the majority, and herein lies the problem. So that is why we need to go back to the 7-man commission, where you have somebody from the law fraternity and somebody from some civic organization, instead of what we have is just the 3 government appointees and 2 opposition appointees. We need to reestablish some form of independence in the commission. I mean, yes, it's true that partisan politics has infiltrated every organization in Dominica, but I think we should be able to find somebody or some people who are willing to stand up for country as opposed to party and government. And so that is why I say we need to go back to the 7-man commission instead of the 5-man commission, where we have a lawyer and somebody from some kind of civic group as part of the commission.
Yeah, guys, we are on the money. It's 1 minute to 7 o'clock. And so what I'm going to ask you guys now as I go around the table, starting with Brother Thomas first, to give you guys close-up comments, the very interesting program we are just concluding here at this time. Brother Thomas, for your final thoughts till we see you next week, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Lofty. Let me, in my final comments, just thank you again for the opportunity to share my thoughts with the listening audience, Dominicans at home and abroad, on this very important matter of electoral reform. As I said in my opening comments, this is a matter that should and need to be front and center of our discussion moving forward. I think what has been contained in the CCJ's report is quite telling. The final thoughts of that report at section 108 and 109 speaks for itself. And we have been forewarned there by the CCJ that any future elections in Dominica ought not to proceed with these or similar things. It is my hope that this discussion would not just be discussions for the sake of discussion, but that they would propel each individual to act and act accordingly. This is our democracy that is at threat. Elections is the hallmark of any free democratic society. Persons in other countries and throughout the world, as a matter of fact, has thought and died for that opportunity to be able to vote and to have free and fair elections in their country. So it is my hope that this discussion will get persons to act. I think the time has come now for more persons to come out and speak. The hour is now, the hour is at hand where you have to speak the truth to what's going on. Too many persons and organizations are silent. And hence the reason why we have some of these issues surfacing time and time again in Dominica. So hopefully that starts the discourse. I must again compliment and commend the many persons and organizations who throughout the years have kept the discussion to some extent, kept, dealing with the matter, but let's understand clearly it's a matter that we have to continue discussing and take the appropriate action. So thanks again, Lofty, and to the other folks on the panel, thank you for being a part of that panel. Thank you.
All right, Brother Alvin Thomas, thank you very much for your very passionate and inspiring contribution this afternoon. We want to thank you very, very much on behalf of the many folks who are listening and viewing at this time. It was a pleasure speaking with you and engaging you for this very 2-hour program this afternoon. Thank you very much till we see you and hear from you next week. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yes. All right, Brother Jude. I want to say your both name at the same time. That's I want to see
C.
David Joseph.
Yeah,
David
C.
Joseph, thank you very much. Yes, your final thoughts.
Well, Lofty, like I said before, I want to give thanks for you having me here as part of this discussion. It was a very enlightening discussion. I enjoyed every minute of it. Brother Alvin was on point with his comments, yourself as well as Paula. Let me say to the people of Dominica, what I am fighting for or what I am speaking up against is not because I don't like the Labour Party, but for most of my adult life, I have lived in, it's not an ideal democratic country, but it is the best democratic country as we speak. And what I want for my people in Dominica is the same thing I enjoy over here, which is freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom to go where I want, when I want, how I want, without any police taking my picture to form whatever he's going to do. And so Dominicans need to understand that in order to get certain things, you have to fight for it. You cannot just sit down there and expect it to drop in your lap. They claim to be a Christian nation. They say that they're praying to God for whatever it is that they're looking for. But God only helps those who help themselves. So, and if you are not willing to help yourself, then you shouldn't expect to get any rewards. If you want something, you have to fight for it. So, my people, I am here doing what I can and all I can to help you, to assist you in every way that I possibly can. You have to try and meet us, I should say, us halfway, because a lot of us out here will not come down to vote because we don't think it's the right thing. If anybody has the right to come and vote in Dominica, I think I do, because when I come to Dominica every year. And when I do, the minimum I spend there is 2 weeks. So when I spend 2 weeks, 2 months, 4 months. So if anybody have the right to come down and register to vote in Dominica, it's me, but I will not do it. Because like I said, I have my mother down there, my brothers, my family. I want them to have that right to decide who they want to govern them. So Dominicans living on Dominica, please take back your country, take control of your country, take control of your situation, and do the right thing. 20 years of one government is not good. It can never be good for any country or any society. Take a look around you. Take a look around you. Look, everybody's passing us. Even the ministers of government are admitting that Dominica is last. So what are you waiting for? If he is in government and he's telling you that Dominica is last, then that should tell you something. We need to wake up. We need to wise up. We need change as of yesterday. Please, people, I am begging you, do what is necessary to bring about change in Dominica. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Brother Joseph, for your very motivating and inspiring words at the end there. Let me shout out some of our folks before I move across to Paula for our closing comments. Brother John Blanchard is on there. Brother John Blanchard said, great program. Everyone on this panel was on point. Good vibes, keep the pressure on, like my brother Zah would say. I also see June Bernard James popped up there as well. Carol and Ford is listening and watching, and she says, thank you, and looking forward for next week's discussion, sending safety and blessings. My brother Flacco is on as well. Janice Sharpless is on. Pat Corbett, all the way up in the north. Pat Corbett, good evening to you. Stephanie John Baptist, that is my folks in the Jimmy area. Veronica Pascal, and the list goes on and on. Margot, La Roque, Carol Fontaine, Dorian Dorival, Gertrude Deja, Aura Burton, Ivinia Joseph, Margel Durand, Norma Ito, my brother here again, Mr. Bolan. Good evening to you, brother. Valda Gabriel, Chris Buguno, he called a while ago. And talking about the calling as we're on that, we are trying from Civic Vibes end to include the calling aspect. That has not been fine-tuned as yet, but we will get up to speed with that aspect very, very soon. So pretty close in the future, you'll be able to call us here, and as well, our fan base outside will be hearing as well. So we're working on that. It's a work in progress, but let me thank Chris for being very adamant this afternoon and demanding I take a call, and at least we heard at least some of it, though very distorted, but we heard some of it. But that will be rectified very, very soon. So, Paula, the co-host of the program, the floor is yours as we're about to wind down.
Yes, lovely. Thank you. Let me say special thank you again to the two gentlemen, Mr. Thomas and Mr. Cecil Joseph. Thank you. It was indeed such a great program here this afternoon. I know many persons who were listening. They did learn a lot here this afternoon, especially when you all touched on the CCJ and the court and what transpired. And like you said, Mr. Joseph, God only help those who help themselves. And the only way we can get through with this is by we Dominicans doing what we have to do. I want to make a plea to the Dominicans who are living out there in the interest of Dominica and Dominicans. You all live out there in the diaspora. Some of you have been out there for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. You all have a good life. We in Dominica here, we have seen the struggle time and time again. We've seen what persons who are supposed to lead and do the right things. We've been seeing what happening. We've seen Dominica have not been a better place for the past 20 years, and Dominica can be a better place. So I'm saying to you all out there, please let Dominicans make their decision they live here. Because while a lot of Dominicans who live here, yes, they have voted for this Labour Party, but we know a number of persons out there in the diaspora who came here and voted. They were the ones who really caused this disaster to the Dominicans living here. So I'm putting that plea out there. Please allow our persons who are here to do what they have to do. If you want to join us in saying that we believe that we should continue to have a democracy and that things should turn around in Dominica here, and then you want to speak to the family members that you have here and say, okay, look, you've been supporting a government for a very long time. We know there is government and opposition, but please stand with the other persons who are out there and voicing their opinions, saying that we think we need to have a clean voters list. We think we need to have voters ID cards and all of that. Stand with your family here and advise them on the right things. I know there's a lot of persons, some of them, they do not read. Some persons do not listen to radio. Some of them, well, the radio stations cannot be reached wherever that they live. But for those of you who are hearing our voices, time and time again, we are saying, do the honorable thing to save Dominica. Let Dominica be the place that it once was, because I believe Dominica is a great country. There's many persons who live out there and they are saying, boy, Dominica is a safe place to live in terms of the crime rate and all of that. So we are saying to make a better Dominica, for those of you who are living out there and thinking of retiring and coming back home, we are saying we want to see the right things done in Dominica. And I honestly believe that the Electoral Commission, they have failed us, but there is still time for them to do the right thing. And we are saying, we as Dominicans, we need to come together as one, have no fear. And let us say to the persons who want to lead us and govern us, let us say to them that you all need to do the right thing, because if you all will not do it, we will do it. Thank you very much once again, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Lofty. Thank you to all the persons who stayed with us, and have a blessed week as we go through, next week. So thank you very much once again.
All right, Paula, thank you very much for your closing comments. It's always a pleasure to have you on board with us, Paula. You are a very formidable woman. You're a strong woman. You have always been on the front line and continue to be, though the challenges that surrounds you, it is great. So I want to thank you very much, Paula, for you being that woman of worth, as it were, where your country is concerned. Well, we cannot thank enough our two distinguished gentlemen here in the audience, that is Mr. Thomas, Alvin Thomas, and also Brother David Cecil Joseph. I will say the Cecil in closing, Brother David. Yeah, they did justice to the topic at hand this evening. And so to all of you, the program could not be what it was tonight. All of you, we're pretty close to 200 of you who were there tonight, including the distractor like Clarence Christian and others. We want to thank them for being part and parcel of the conversation. Before I go, let me just repeat and reiterate the website that you guys can visit. It is www.civicvibes.com. Again, it is www.civicvibes.com. There you can visit our website and get some pertinent information there. The summary report, as we said before, should be up there on the website sometime this week so that you guys can take a look at it there as well. Let me just again repeat, next week's program will be a follow-up as to what we discussed here tonight, but it will more or less be a call to action program. It will more or less be an action-oriented program, asking Dominicans, let us come together, let us bind together, as it were, in order to make come alive some of the words that the CCJ warned us about in their report. They said to be forewarned is to be forearmed, and so we are well armed, as it were, that there ought to be no other general election in Dominica under these very tainted and corrupt ways, as per the words of the CCJ. So all in all, we are just thanking all of you who stayed here with us tonight, and we will see you sometimes next week, Sunday, from 5 p.m. That is the time the program starts, always on time, bang on time. To all our technical team in the back, thank you very much. And we thank everyone for being here tonight.
Yeah,
so,
love to you. I just want to make a quick call to ask everybody, try and read that report.
Yes.
I think it will be on site. If they get a copy, try and read that report. So when they come next week, as many people would have had a copy and would have read through the report as well, satisfy themselves.
Sure,
Indeed.
brother.
Indeed.
Indeed. Sound advice, sound advice. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Pleasant evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Good night to
Bye,
all.
David. Paula, take care.
Good night to
All
you,
right,
sir.
Lofty.
You
Bye.
take care.
Right.
All right.
Bye, Lofty. Bye, Paula.
Take it easy, brother.
Okay.
Valerie.
Democracy fighting a losing battle in my land. In my land. I'm most of the most educated people living surrender existence. And the best way to get into trouble is to try and liberate oppressed people who don't know where they stand. They don't understand that binding together people's power is the only solution of land. But they want to shut me up. People feel free to talk in communist China and Venezuela. What is it between people protesting? They want to shut me up. Are we not free to talk in Dominica and Antigua? We doesn't do it. All kind of wrong things. Hear me? Take care of kidnapping. We are living in communist country. See that girl. Daddy, daddy, da 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 da. Tell me, who will stick for the country? Who will stand on its side? With all governance that is easily distracted and preoccupied. With basic survival every hour, a gas cylinder or a bus here, compromise justice on a new colonizers, armed and waiting to conquer our land in peace. But they want to shut me up. People feel free to talk in communist China. I'm not very happy. People suffering. People protesting. He wants to shut me up. Are we not free to talk in Dominica? And Grenada, Grenada's in trouble. Grenada people, hear me. Take the only set me up. We are living in communist country. No pass. See that. I did a thing, yeah. You know, that's it. Oh, we said that we suffered Africa. What do we care? Why do we care? We prefer to die of stress under the illusion of being safer. Why do we suffer in silence at the hands of a very old who was carrying us back into slavery? And no one should speak or protest in the democracy that ready to vex it. But it was to shut me off. People feel free to talk in North Korea. In China, even not diversity. People protesting. They want to shut me off. Are we not free to talk in Dominica? And convince them we official leaders. We are blessed. Take out what you kill me, stress me. We are living in communist country. Yawn, arresting the youth them for standing for democracy and righteousness and justice. When you don't know it's easy to stand up for money and your own things. That don't say they're weak if you can't stand for righteousness. Yeah?